joining us. My name's Ellie Webb and I work with the Centre for International Private Enterprise. We are an implementing company, NGO that operates around the globe, and in Papua New Guinea over the last 5 years we've been specifically working in women's economic empowerment. Today with me I have Barb Langley. Thanks for joining me, Barb.
My pleasure.
Barb runs one of our Centres of Excellence, which is specifically around women's economic empowerment, and I'll allow Barb to introduce herself. But today we're here to talk about advocacy and what that means for the PNG country and specifically our women. Thanks for joining me, Barb. Please,
Thank you.
If you could intro yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Barbara Langley. I'm the director for SIPE Center for Women's Economic Empowerment. And we actually have been active in many countries throughout the world with women's economic empowerment programs since SIPE started in the 1980s. A lot of what we have done is advocacy work, trying to help chambers of commerce and business associations, as well as individual private enterprise women in the private sector, to advocate on the laws and regulations and even social norms that impact their businesses. One of the things that we find is advocacy sometimes takes on different forms in different countries depending on what the culture is. Mm-hmm. But really what we're talking about is collective action. It's working together as business associations, chambers of commerce, and individuals in the private sector to identify what the priority issues are that are holding our businesses back, and then identifying solutions, and then working in partnership with the government in order to move those, remove those barriers and make things move forward. We actually worked with the Bangladesh Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry over a number of years to help build their capacity to do this type of advocacy work. But at the end of the day, they assembled a broad-based, diverse coalition that represented women in the private sector. And they looked at the different priority issues. Illiteracy was one, other sort of social norms. And what they really decided to focus on was the issue of access to credit for women in business.
Okay.
So looking at the laws, the regulations, interest rates on commercial loans, and not only that, but also the social norms. Mm-hmm. So for example, in Bangladesh, it was very intimidating and in some cases perhaps maybe a bit inappropriate for a woman to go sit alone in a office in a bank with a male loan officer and negotiate the terms of a loan. In some cases, these women didn't necessarily have the literacy rate to go through the very complicated forms of a commercial loan and to understand the application process to be able to fill it out and to submit it for approval.
Sure.
Right. So what we ended up doing was working with them to develop a mechanism. SIPE focused on the mechanism, and the chamber themselves, the women in Bangladesh, put together what the content was, what needed to happen. And then we worked with them to advocate it with the government. So it was a broad-based coalition that put together these priorities. They worked with a researcher to propose solutions, and then they sat in public-private dialogue with the government to discuss what they found and what they wanted to move forward.
Sure. And
in the end of the day, we went back and looked, and through this process, they were able to unlock $95 million for 10,000 women business owners over a course of just a few years.
We are all very aware of the gender inequity space. This is no longer an elephant in the room. This is something that everybody is talking about. Obviously, everybody speaks about the gender-based violence, speaks about the lack of political availability of spaces for women to speak in our leadership roles. That is changing, but it is slow. But one thing that we can have positive effects and affect those changes is in the economic space for women here in Papua New Guinea. And this is a start. And, I think for everybody out there, if you've got these questions and you need to know more about it, please keep listening out for some of these podcasts or talking pieces that we have about this through the Women's Business Resource Centre and through SIPE PNG. We will be reaching out to a number of different groups to make sure that we continue to explain this and open up the conversation so everybody understands more about the Women's National Business Agenda.